Hello and welcome to chapter number 5. In this chapter I want to talk about nails and parents. So what are nails? I have here created a simple skeleton with 2 bones. I go to the animate page, and if I now drag this joint here around, you see that the other 2 joints, this one and this one, will follow. Okay, let's say this should be an arm. Yeah, here are the hand, and this is the shoulder. And if I drag the hand, I don't want that the shoulder is following the hand. So the easiest way to achieve that is I go to the shoulder joint and nail them. And nailing means here you can click on this little symbol here, and the cross is coloring red. And this means if I now drag this joint here, the shoulder stays in position. It is nailed. You can also do that by choose the joint, go under the joint tab and click on nailed. Now it is also nailed. If I now drag here the hand, as this is the same result. You can in Motion Studio nail so many joints as you want. That means I can also nail this one, and now I have nailed both of them. If I now drag this joint here, just this one moves, the other one are nailed. You can set the nails here in the animate mode, or also in the setup mode. In the setup mode I can set the nail for this joint. If I now go to the animate mode, the nail is set and it works in the same way. But if I now remove the nail and go to the default position, the nail is still there. If I do that only in the animate mode, let's remove them here and let's set the nail in the animate mode. If I now go back to the default position, there is no nail, because the setup sets the default position, and if I have a nail in the default position, then if I go back to the default in animate mode, I always get this result, what I have set in the setup mode. Okay, nails are very helpful for animating, so that you can just move these things that you want to move and not the other ones. So what is parenting? Motion Studio, I don't want to say that it has a problem, but Motion Studio is just and only an inverse kinematic system. That means, as we've seen before, if I drag this joint here, then the other one follows. That's inverse kinematic. Let's say this is the hand. In this case, it is a good solution to animate. Let's say we have here a cup of coffee and we want that the hand grabs this cup of coffee. Then we can animate the hand directly, that it goes to the cup of coffee. This is inverse kinematic. In a forward kinematic system we had to move this joint here, or to rotate this joint, and to rotate this joint, so that the hand goes to the cup, and this is nearly impossible. The problem with IK is sometimes if you want to create a movement, it creates bad looking and not natural looking arcs. And let me show this. Let's say this is our default position. Here is the shoulder and here is the arm, the hand. So I nail this here, and I create a keyframe for that, for under frame number 2, and we want to say that the arm is going over here, and let's do that under frame, maybe frame 20. So if I now show this animation, we can see that the motion is not natural looking. If we see if we follow the movement, you can see that is not natural looking, a not natural looking movement here. And the reason for that is, in Inverse Kinematic, Motion Studio tries to calculate the positions for the joints from one keyframe to the other keyframe, and this is always a linear movement. But in this case we want a arc looking motion. So how can we achieve that? The only way to do that here is go to a frame in between and repositioning that a little bit and set a new keyframe, and then the movement looks more natural. Now the calculation has a in between where we can better calculate it. This is the only way to do that here in Motion Studio, because we cannot say to Motion Studio that it has to use forward kinematic instead of inverse kinematic. We can use, to adjust the joints, we can use a simulation of forward kinematic that Motion Studio gives us, and this is called the parent mode. Let me explain this. Let's choose this joint here, and if I rotate this joint, you see it has no influence about the other joints. It makes no sense to move this around. But if I parenting this and I now rotate this joint, you can see it rotates the bone here, his child bone. Let me go to setup mode and attach or add one bone more. Go back to the animate tab. If I now rotate this joint here, you see the child bones are following this. If I try to rotate this one here, nothing's happened because there is no parenting here. If I also set a parenting for this one and I rotate, I can rotate this child. This type of forward kinematic is just for adjustment, it's not for calculation. And the reason for that is that Motion Studio not directly uses forward kinematic. It simulates the forward kinematic through inverse kinematic, but for adjusting poses for our character, its parenting is really helpful. One last word to this. You can see here our bone chain. This is the first one, the second one, and the third. And I have a parenting on the first, and on the second. On the third bone, it makes no sense to set to switch parenting on because there is no child behind them. But what we not can do is set the parenting for the very first joint here. If I rotate this around, nothing's happened. We are not able to set parenting for the first joint, so you have to keep that in mind if you want to use parenting. Okay, that's enough for this chapter. We have talked about nails and parents. We have talked about skinning and attachments and all this stuff. So it's a good time to start with rigging the first character and try to animate this character, and that we do in the next chapter.